We'll do a couple of these and then kind of give you a chance to ask questions. If you still don't get it today, don't stress. Do what you can do with the test tomorrow. Again, with the way the test is set up tomorrow, I will be grading it personally for correctness, but your grade will not be based on your correctness. Okay, I will put on there you got 7 out of 10 right, or whatever the numbers happen to be. But your grade will be based on you showing work on everything. Okay, so it should be one where you can easily get the 10 points.
So it ain't based off the answer we choose?
No, it's based off of the work you show. Honestly, for your grade purposes, I'm not even paying attention to whether you get the answer right or not. I'm paying attention to what work you show me so I can see what needs to be taught differently. Okay. But you got to show me the work to be able to do that. So just because you come in and put something down in every question does not mean you're going to get full credit. Okay? Because there's a lot of y'all that just go down and start writing down stuff, and drawing pictures, and you don't really show any kind of math work. And so make sure you're showing me some effort, showing me some stuff that makes a little bit of sense. All right. When you're graphing inequalities, the first thing you need to do with the inequalities, you need to graph the line that's stated there. So our line is y equals negative 1/2 x plus 1. That's the first one. That equation is already in slope-intercept form, which is something we need it to be in. Okay, what is slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. So when we're graphing something that's in slope-intercept form, the first thing we do is we graph the b. So what is the b in that first equation?
1.
Yeah, the b is the 1. So we go on the y-axis, we put a dot at the 1. Okay so far? Next step. Once you've plotted the y-intercept, the next thing we need is the slope. Next thing we need is the slope. And the slope in that problem is negative 1/2. So that tells you that you go down 1 and to the right 2. And you can keep doing that as long as you got space on your grid. Or you can go up 1 and to the left 2. You can kind of do the opposite of that. Any questions on that so far?
I understand nothing you just did.
So just keep paying attention. Really focus. All I've done now is just plotted some points that I can draw my line through. Now, one of the differences between inequalities and equations when you're dealing with graphing is the way the line is drawn. If you have this symbol or this symbol, then what you have is a solid line, so a full solid line. If you have this symbol or this symbol, we have a dashed line. So your line looks more like this. So that little equal to symbol underneath it tells me whether or not it's a solid line or not. Okay. So since this has the greater than or equal to, it will be a solid line. So my line should look something like that right there.
So this do the same thing. This.
Right. The other difference in inequalities is you got to shade one direction or the other. So what we have is y is by itself. Remember, y is up or down. And since it says y is greater than, that means we're going to shade up. So anything in that direction of that line is considered to be a solution. So any point out there would be a solution to this inequality, would make it a true statement. So if I put the point 5, 5 in there and replace the x and the y, that would be a true statement. This 5, 5 is in the shaded area.
Why'd you shade that again?
Because of the inequality, if it was just y equals, all I would deal with would be the line. But because it's y is greater than or equal to, it's the line plus everything greater than that line. Okay. All right, the next one, 2x minus y is greater than or equal to negative 3. That one is not in slope-intercept form. So the first thing we have to do is put it into slope-intercept form. Okay? And to do that, I need to get rid of that 2x. So I'm going to subtract the positive 2x from both sides. Which leaves you with negative y is greater than negative 3 minus 2x.
I know, I am.
Okay. As a reminder, the only way you fail it tomorrow is if you leave it blank and you don't do the work. I don't care if you get it right or wrong. I want to see what you can do with it. Yes, on this pretest, that's what I'm looking for. Okay. If I was wanting you to get it all correct, I'd probably spend about 2.5 weeks working through this stuff before I gave you the test, which we probably will do anyway before we do the post test. This kind of gives you an idea where we're going with it. Okay? Now, y is still not completely by itself because it's got a negative sign with it. So we need to divide everything by that negative 1 that's in front of that y. So that'll get rid of that negative sign on the y. Because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Now, again with inequalities, there's always some differences. Anytime you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, the inequality changes directions. So since I'm dividing both sides by a negative 1, instead of a greater than symbol, it becomes a less than symbol. Okay? And then divided by negative 1 just changes the sign on everything else. It was solving systems of equations using substitution first, and then we used elimination second.
How many portions gonna be on this thing?
So what? You
Hey.
divided everything?
Those kinds of questions, just hold on to them, write them down, don't wait till the end to ask those.
Did you divide? No. Yeah, you divided everything by negative 1?
Yes.
Why?
To get rid of that negative in front of the y.
If you get the negative 1, never mind, I see.
Okay. So now we have that second inequality in slope-intercept form. So we start the same way we did the first. We're going to start with the y-intercept, which is 3. So you go up to 3 on the y-axis and put a dot. And then my slope is 2. The number in front of the x is 2. Which means I go up 2 and over to the right 1. And again, I can just keep doing that. And I can also go down 2 and to the left 1. And is my line going to be solid or dashed?
Solid.
Solid, because of that equal to piece on the inequality symbol.
So what makes it never mind.
Okay. So now, which direction am I shading? To the right of that green line or to the left of that green line?
Right.
To the right, because it says y is less than, and less than means down, and since the line's slanted this direction, down is to the right of it. So this is the direction I'm shading for the green. And yesterday, one of the final questions we always ask is, what is the solution? And when you have a system of equations, the solution is a point. And it's numerical value. The problem with solving a system of inequalities, your solution is an area. Okay? And the area is the part that's shaded in both. If it's true for one or for both of them, then it's true for the solution or for the system. So everything on this line up to here, and this line all the way going that direction, and then everything that was shaded in both green and blue. So the solution is this area right here, including those two lines up to here. Nothing over here and nothing down here is part of the solution. Even though this is in blue and this is in green, it's only the solution if it works for both of them. Right? So it has to be shaded in green and blue for that to work.
So that's
Or if you're just using pencils, shaded in both directions. I usually shade one in one direction and the other in the other direction. If they overlap, it's part of the solution.
you're gonna give us a ruler for our people.
Yes. Yeah, you will have a ruler tomorrow.
So what's that like what do you call it? You know, I know it's sort of shaded, but is it a word for it?
The systems of inequalities is what we're dealing with. What's the other? Something that is used with this a lot is something called linear programming. It gets into a computer-based thing, which we may deal a little bit with, but we won't deal a ton. No. Because you're that far behind understanding limitations. Yeah.
Well, in my defense, I was in ALE and they were teaching us bull crap, so I mean.
Now, put your hands up, please. And make sure you're paying attention in this direction. That's for everybody. All right, next one. Here's our next inequality system. And this one looks a little bit different. Simply because the inequalities look a little different. The first one, there's not an X in there at all. The second one, there's not a Y. Okay, so what kinds of lines are we going to have here?
Dotted and
Okay, one will be a dashed line and one will be a solid line. Okay. The other thing is because there's not an X in one of them and there's not a Y in the other, we're going to have either horizontal or vertical lines. There won't be any slant to either one of them. Okay? One's going to be straight up and down, one's going to be straight left to right. Okay? So there's nothing algebraic that we need to do before we start graphing. So on the first one, y is less than 2. And if we want to graph the line y equals 2, then we're going to put a dot pretty much anywhere that there's a 2 on the y. So is this point right here,
No.
is that where y equals 2? No, that's where x equals 2. Okay. So because of that, we don't have it over here. Right here is where y equals 2. Right here is where y equals 2. Right here is where y. Pretty much anything along this line here is where y equals 2. And so when you have y equal to something, your line ends up being a horizontal line. Okay? And it's mostly because that means that the slope is 0. So that's the line y equals 2. Now I just did something that's a problem with this stuff.
You didn't dash it.
I didn't dash it. And so if you have to do that, you use a pencil, you can just erase a couple of pieces, different pieces in there, and it still shows a dash.
Yeah.
Alright. The next piece is, since it is an inequality, we need a shade. This one's pretty simple, other than the fact that, y is, since y is less than 2, that's everything below that line. Question? So the next one, x is greater than or equal to negative 3. Where x is negative 3 is this line right here. So any dot on that line is where x is equal to negative 3. And because it's an equal to symbol also, it will be a solid line. Okay, and then the shaded side, it says x is greater than, so it's going to be to the right, which is where greater than x is. Now, what is the solution in this inequality? Or this system of inequality?
It would be the bottom right box.
Yeah, pretty much the bottom right box. The difference, though, is on this one, it does include this line, but it does not include that line. And it includes one of the lines, but not the other. Because being dashed, it doesn't include that line. But it does include everything inside it.
So the whole box right there is the solution.
Everything in that box will be a solution. Yeah. Last one we'll do today. Talk to me about these two equations, or these two inequalities that you see so far. Just by looking at it. What can you tell me about them?
One line solid, one line
Their
stacked.
slope is similar.
Yeah, slope's not just similar, the slopes are exactly the same.
Or how?
They're both 3/4.
That one look. Oh, I thought that one was a negative.
Oh, that's greater than or equal to. Sorry. That. I can see that. Okay. So the slopes are the same. Okay. The top line's going to be solid. The bottom line's going to be dashed. Okay. So let's go ahead and graph that top line. I start out at 2. That's my y-intercept. That's my b. And then from there, I'm going to go up 3 and to the right 4. And again, I can keep doing that. Or I can go down 3 and to the left 4. And we said on that one that my line is solid. And then which direction would be greater than?
Above it.
This direction here. So everything this direction. Okay, second inequality. Start down here at negative 3. And from there I go up 3 over 4. Or I go down 3 and to the left 4. Okay, this time it's going to be a dashed line though. And then where am I going to shade? This one is less dense, you're going to go down.
There is no solution.
They have nothing in common, so there is no solution. Hey, y'all, what kinds of lines are those two lines?
What's the vertical?
Starts with the letter P and ends in parallel.
Perpendicular.
Okay. Starts with P, ends in parallel. If you have the same slope, your lines are parallel, which means they will not intersect. Now, there is a way that this would have had a solution. If I'd have turned this around and said this was y is less than or equal to 3/4, that would have gone this direction, and everything down here would have been part of the solution, because that would have been what they had in common.
What if
So
the
there is other ways to have it.
what if the line is on like the same like what if that line is on that line like on top of it? Like how would you
Because this one is dashed, it still would have been no solution. Because the only thing they would have had in common would have been the line. But since one of them
Oh.
wasn't on that line officially, then it still would have been us first two.
That's all right.
Questions on this? Okay,